From the Division for Academic Success. That is kind of a twofold office. So, on the one hand, we work with students who have documented disabilities who need accommodations for either for school or for clinicals. And then on the other hand, we also work with students, I will say, for academic success that can look like a lot of different things. And to be honest, stress management is one of the main reasons why I see students. So, today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about stress, what it looks like, and how you can manage it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started. I know I tend to speak quickly, so if I'm talking too quickly for you, please just let me know. If you need to see me when we are on campus, obviously I'm in my home office today, but we are located, the Division of Academic Success, in the VMI building. So the same as university counseling and the student health services, the same place where you got your ID badge. This is where we are. We're on the second floor. Okay. So there are three types of stress. We'll get started on that right away. There are three different types. The acute is just like a moment of stress. Let's say something happens, some kind of trauma. You hit a deer when you're driving home from work or from school. That would be an acute time for stress, right? Because you'd be very concerned about what's going on with your car and with yourself. Hopefully you're okay. Periodic acute is something that you might have time and again. So the number one thing I hear from students is I have test anxiety. This is the number one complaint that draws them into my office. Test anxiety would be periodic acute type of stress. So you're going to have it periodically, but it's always wrapped around that test. Okay. So periodic acute may, outside of a school situation, may look like if you have financial struggles. It may be the first of the month when the rent is due. Okay, now I'm going to be stressed because how am I going to make ends meet? Okay, so it can be a lot of different things. Chronic stress is something that life is hard. Life is just hard. It's hard for everyone, but some people it can be even harder. Maybe you have a lot of different stressors coming at you all the time. Maybe you have an underlying anxiety disorder that causes you to feel stressed, whereas other people going through the same situation may not. So it can look different kinds of ways. Stress can. One of the things that makes me cringe is when people say, yeah, I say I feel stressed and nobody believes me because I have good grades and I have a job and I have a family and I have all sorts of stuff going on and my life looks really good on the outside, but inside I feel overwhelmed. It is very possible to have stress and feel stressed without other people knowing it. Okay. So please, if anyone's telling you when you say, I feel stressed, what do you have to be stressed about? I'm going to say that's the person you don't want to confide in anymore because they just don't get you. Okay. Stress is very real. These are just some of the big stressors. Obviously, the pandemic is a huge one right now. In any given semester prior to COVID, we would see about 1,500 students in our office each semester from the MCV campus alone. We are seeing, I can't say double that, but probably well more than the 1,500 that we typically see because of pandemic. Not necessarily because they're concerned about catching COVID, but I've had a number of students who have lost someone they loved due to COVID. I've had a number of students who have had to be in quarantine during very stressful times of their lives just because of potential COVID um, exposure. But the biggest thing is the virtual. The virtual classes, the virtual labs, just all of that, not being able to reach out to study groups. That's probably the biggest one I'm hearing right now because study groups, a lot of people aren't comfortable getting together or they're getting together virtually. And quite frankly, it doesn't work as well. So a lot of people are feeling a lot of stress from the pandemic. Okay. And a lot of people who maybe had as a release before, well, I used to go to the gym. I can't do that now. Or I used to hang out with friends. We can't do that anymore. So that's a big one. Academics is huge, particularly in the programs on the MCB campus. I know there's a lot of weight on everybody's shoulders, competitive programs, wanting to do well, needing to perform, because if you get below a certain grade, you're knocked out of the program. So academics can definitely be a huge stressor. Family obligations, job stress, board exams as they're coming up, any kind of trauma, any kind of illness, anything you have that you can think about, even holidays. I put that in there because that is something that causes stress to people. And a lot of people will say, yeah, but it's Christmas. It's, fun time. It can be, but even good stress is stress. And when you have anything going on, even if it's a good stress, if you've got another good stress, you're still adding stress to the pot. So you're going to feel overwhelmed at some point if you don't handle it correctly. Okay. So, talking about just some unhealthy coping strategies: overeating or not eating, smoking, drinking, doing other drugs, biting nails, becoming violent. And becoming violent doesn't necessarily mean like I hit somebody or I got in a drag out fight. It can mean I really am an aggressive driver when I'm angry. Okay. How many times have you come to school and you're thinking, I'm running late, I'm feeling frustrated, oh my gosh, I really need to get there. And you're blowing the horn at somebody who, quite frankly, is going 70 in a 60 mile per hour, but you want to be going 80. Okay. So, not necessarily aggressively violent, but maybe a little fussier than normal. Avoiding family and friends, particularly if they're the cause of stress for you. But even if they're not, sometimes people will say, "Well, I just kind of circle the wagons. I don't want to deal with anybody. Um, I just don't want to reach out." Well, it's a very unhealthy thing to do because we're made to be in relationship with others, right? And so when we don't have anyone that we can talk to, we don't have anyone we can confide in, if we don't have anyone that we feel is a safe space, now we're adding more stress onto us. Okay. This is why we're seeing a lot of students come in during the pandemic, because they really are feeling isolated. Even if they're at home with their families, they have very good support there. They're disconnected with their professors, disconnected with their classmates, their colleagues. I have a lot of students who tell me that they feel like they learn better when they're in a classroom setting because people are asking questions. And so if they don't feel comfortable asking a question, or maybe they didn't think of the right question to ask, if one of their classmates is, oh, okay, great, I can learn from that. But in this virtual realm, people aren't really raising their hands to ask a lot of questions. Okay. So they're losing out on that. So this being isolated is not always a good thing. Okay. Ignoring the problem. I put two asterisks on this because I hear this an awful lot from students when I say, well, you have a lot of stress on you. So how are you handling that? I'm not dealing with it until I'm done with the program. I've only got a semester left. I've only got 1 year left. Particularly in nursing, if they're in the accelerated program, I've got 18 months. Like, I'm just going to get through this and then I'll be done. It really breaks my heart to hear people say that for a number of reasons. One, because you can get sick from stress. They say stress is a killer. It honestly can kill you. So if you're waiting that long to find relief from stress, it's not healthy. And two, I hate to see someone spend the time and the energy and the money to go through a program and they're so stressed by it that when they finish up, they say, you know what? I really don't want to do this. I really don't. I'm so done. And I've seen that happen with people before. And so ignoring the problem is something that I hear a lot of students talk about doing. And I urge you, please, please, please reconsider. Okay. So then thinking about some warning signs that your stress is not under control. And this is not a mad cat. This is actually my cat. So he's just yawning. I happen to catch him in a good moment. But some of the warning signs that you're feeling overwhelmed, fatigue, tired all the time. Right now, with things being virtual, I have a lot of students who are saying, well, it's very hard to get motivated when I just roll out of bed and turn on the computer. Okay, so there's no set schedule of like, I'm getting up, I'm actually brushing my teeth, getting something to eat, getting dressed, and going somewhere. I'm just rolling out of bed and turning on the computer. So, you know what? I'm just tired. I'm not going to do that today. Or maybe I'm going to turn it on and turn my screen off so I can just listen but stay in bed. Okay. So fatigue, apathy, that's kind of the feeling of, I don't care. What do you want to watch? I don't know. Do you want to go somewhere? Well, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's just that kind of, I'll say a blank feeling or a blah feeling. Some people will say, I don't feel anything. I feel numb. That's apathy. Okay. Anxiety. I talked about test anxiety. I'll have students come in who are so anxious about a test, not necessarily that they've taken, but a test that they already took. And it's like, well, your anxiety is kind of misplaced because there's literally nothing you can do about a test that you've already taken. Let's look at things moving forward. But what stress can do is it can get you so wrapped up in something that's already occurred that you're unable to come down from that anxiety, and you're not able to focus on the present or move forward. So anxiety is definitely a warning sign that you need to get it under control. Crying and sadness. I have some students who will come to me and they say, well, I don't feel depressed, but like I can't stop crying, or I don't think I have depression, but I feel sad all the time. They may not have major depressive disorder. Though I will say I've had students be surprised when they've been diagnosed with it. But having done clinical work myself, I can say you only have to have it for 14 days for it to be diagnosable. Okay. But you do have to have some other symptoms along with it. But crying and sadness is one of those ways that our body releases. So if you have so much stress and tension built up in your body, if you're not letting that out, your body will make sure that it will let it out for you. Okay. So we talked about, I didn't include it in here, but we talked about getting violent. Sometimes people can use that as a coping strategy, and sometimes it can be because you've had enough. If you think about, so I'm probably dating myself. I grew up watching like Looney Tunes when I was young. So I don't even know if they show that on TV anymore, but they used to have like, say, a little whistle or something, and all of a sudden, that little whistle would just blow and you'd see the steam come out because it's done. That can happen when you have too much stress and you're not taking care of it. So that can come out really hard and heavy as anger, aggression, or it can come out as crying or sadness. Okay. Sometimes you're just so overwhelmed, it's got to come out somehow. Okay. Warning sign that you're not doing well with stress management, you make no time for yourself. I've heard from students who pack their schedules with school, clinicals, and work, and when do you have downtime? Well, I sleep at night. Well, I'm glad that you do, but you're telling me you sleep like 5 or 6 hours a night and that's it. And you're not taking any time for yourself during the day. So that's a warning sign that you're not managing stress very well. Memory issues. I've had a number of students, particularly with testing, if they have like test anxiety in particular, but I've heard them say literally there's like a cloud over the screen and I feel like I can't read the questions, or I read it and I read it 3 times and I still don't comprehend what they're asking. Okay. Those memory issues come along with feeling overwhelmed because your brain can only process so much information at one time. And if you're not allowing your brain to process things that are very stressful, it's still thinking about all of that at the same time you're trying to focus on something in the present. Okay. So memory issues can definitely be a big warning sign. Also, which I didn't put this down there, but it kind of goes in line with it. If you're having very vivid dreams, not necessarily nightmares, but maybe you're remembering your dreams a lot, it's usually a sign that you're very stressed and that you're not managing that stress very well, because the only time that our brains have to process things, if we're not allowing it to process during the day, is at night when we're sleeping because we can't fight back, right? So you're having those dreams, if you're having them every night, it's probably a sign that you need to think about your stress level and what you can do to calm it down. Okay. And illness. I told you stress is a killer. It can lead to high blood pressure. It can lead to high cholesterol because it can lead to, overeating. It can lead to undereating. It can lead to a lot of different things. It can just weaken your immune system. So for you guys that are in the hospital or in different clinical placements, you're going in and you're being exposed to people who have potentially, contagious diseases. There's a higher chance that you will contract something because you haven't taken care of your immune system. Okay. So these are just some ways to know that your stress really needs to get under control. Okay. So talk about some healthy coping strategies, right? Engage in a hobby. That's something that I hear students say a lot, that nope, I just don't do that anymore. I don't have time for it right now. Think of something, even if you don't do it all the time. So I'm a quilter. You can see I have a quilt on the wall behind me. That's how I release. I'll say it's the main way. Obviously, I have other hobbies than just one. But if I can't do quilting, every night, that's perfectly fine. But I want to make sure that I'm taking some time for it during the week because I know that is one way that I relieve stress. Okay. So if you have any hobbies, then, I would say do it at least once a week. If you don't have any hobbies, this is a perfect time to explore something new. So if anybody has thought about learning something in the pandemic, I would encourage you to look it up. There's so much stuff online. So much stuff is free right now. You don't even have to leave the comfort of your home to learn a new hobby. Okay, so think about it. Talk to a licensed therapist. This is one I have a lot of kickback from with students for a number of reasons. One, because a lot of students think, I don't need that. That seems like it's awfully severe. I have a lot of students who say culturally, they're not comfortable going to see a counselor. Or thirdly, a lot of students think, well, my program is so competitive, I don't want anyone to find out that I'm seeing a therapist. Here's the thing, a lot of people see therapists. I see a therapist. I love it. I think it is a fantastic tool because here is someone who has no vested interest in all the different things going on in your life in terms of they are an objective voice. You can go and tell them anything, and they're going to be able to help you kind of see things in a new way. They don't have to worry about you liking them. They're not your family. They're not your friends. They're not your teachers. You don't have to worry about impressing them. You can go and just tell them everything and get a new perspective. So I highly recommend therapy. Listening to music, exercise. This is a big one. Like I said, a lot of students are having trouble with right now when they see me, because they say, well, I used to go to the gym, but either I don't feel comfortable doing that right now with COVID, or I don't have time to go do that right now with school going in session, or lastly, I don't my gym isn't open. I don't have that opportunity because of COVID. So think about different ways to exercise. If you're in the Richmond area, Richmond is full of walking trails, biking trails, different parks. I mean, lots of places to go. If you're not in the Richmond area, look around and see what is in your neighborhood. Honestly, just your neighborhood. If you live in a house with stairs, you can walk up and down the stairs several times, just to get some exercise. Meditation, yoga, praying, whatever is your spiritual release is a great way to help cope with some stress. Yoga, I'm going to mention because it's kind of twofold. For some people, it is a religious practice, but for some people, they do it really for the stretching. So yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, anything like that can do real great wonders to relieve some stress, both in the body and in the mind. Taking time with family and friends, particularly if you're the type of person who has kind of built up walls and shut out people to deal with stress, it would be a great thing to kind of bring people back in, even if you bring them in slowly. I do have a number of students who will say, well, I enjoy spending time with my family, but I don't like to share everything that's going on because they don't understand, or maybe they think, oh, well, you've got great grades. You can't be experiencing something like that. Then seek out a friend. Okay. Seek out a mentor, seek out somebody in the community that you can talk to that you feel comfortable with. Okay. And you don't even necessarily need to talk about a lot of stuff. I will say I have some friends that we just get together to go do fun things. Probably not as much now during the pandemic, but sometimes it's, hey, do you want to just go see the new exhibit at the VMFA? We don't have to talk about anything deep, but it's a good release to get out, have somebody by your side, say, I feel normal for a minute. It's a good thing. Okay. Medication. If you're on medication, if your doctor's prescribed medication, make sure you stay on it. I remember when I did clinical work, the very first time that I got an emergency phone call in the middle of the night, it was the parent of one of my children. I worked with at-risk youth and their families. And she says, well, I can't sleep. I'm worried my daughter's going to go to detention tomorrow when we go to court. And I said, well, she is going to detention. She's been truant. She's going for 20 days. So let's talk about why you can't sleep. Well, I didn't take my medication. If your doctor prescribes you medication, stay on top of your medication. Okay. Support groups, different clubs, not necessarily support clubs, but clubs that you like. My godson had come to VCU as an undergrad a number of years ago. He's graduated now, but I remember one of his big coping strategies was he likes to run. And he found a group at VCU that said, yeah, we gather and we run. I don't think he ever really made any friends out of that group, but he found a great release in having other people that he could share something with. Okay. Crying. I know I mentioned before, sometimes that can be a sign that you're overwhelmed, but sometimes people will tell me it's the opposite is true. Well, I feel like I can't cry anymore. Like I physically can't cry. Watch a sad movie. If you don't have one, Imitation of Life will do it every time. So watch a movie, let it come. Okay. Some other coping strategies: get adequate rest. All right. Make sure that you're getting good sleep at night. A lot of students will say, but I need to study until like midnight when I have a test the next morning. That is literally the worst thing that you can do before an exam, because you just are going to work your brain up and then you're not going to give it any time to rest. So it's going to be pretty fried when you go in to take your exam. I'm going to say go to bed a little earlier and get that rest. You'll do a lot better on your exam. There is nothing you can learn in that extra 2 hours or 1 hour that you couldn't learn prior. Study every day. It will help you to stay ahead of the game and you can get good sleep. Okay. Proper diet. I'm not going to tell you eat 3 square meals a day, eat, vegetarian or vegan or healthy or whatever, but just don't eat chips all the time. Okay. So try to eat something pretty well balanced. Make sure that you're eating every day. I have a lot of students who say, well, I don't eat breakfast. Grab a protein bar, grab a Pop Tart. It is not hard to pick something for breakfast that you don't really have to think that hard about. Okay. So make sure you're eating. You need calories to have energy. All right. Prioritize. I have students come to me, so help me. They have a laundry list this long. This is my to do list for the day. Not going to work. If that's your to-do list, make it for the week. Pick 2 things, maximum 2 things, maybe 3 for a day. Because if you have a list of 10 things to get done during the day, chances are A, you're not getting all of them done. B, you're feeling guilty because you haven't gotten all of them done. And C, you are struggling to try to get them all done. And so you're wearing yourself out even more. Okay. So I want you, when you come up with a list, if you have that really long to do list, say, well, what is something that I need to get done today? Do I really need to pay attention to studying for an exam that's 2 weeks out? Or do I really need to focus on studying for the exam that's 3 days away? Probably the 3 days away is going to take precedence, right? Or if you say, well, I know I have my job and then I have to do my clinicals. I don't know how I'm going to make it all fit. Prioritize. Is school coming first? Does your job need to come first? Is there a way to manage the two? Can you go to HR at your work site and say, hey, can you work around my hours with school? All right. Don't just assume that there's no answer to anything. All right. So prioritize. Watch a movie, TV. I don't know if it's always possible to go to the movies anymore. I know they're trying to make some things work, like drive-in theaters and stuff like that. Play with pets. If you have one, great. If you don't have one, you can always play with someone else's. Take breaks while studying and while you're at the computer. I would say it breaks my heart when I hear students say that they get up in the morning. First thing they do is they turn on the computer, they're watching their lectures, they're studying on the computer, they're doing this on the computer, that on the computer, and 11 o'clock at night, they're going to bed having sat at the computer all day long. All right. So I'm going to say studies show that our brains, for about 15 to 20 minutes, they hold good attention. Then it dips for about 7 to 10 minutes. Then it comes back and we're good for about another 15, 20 minutes before the attention dips again. If you think about it, Hollywood has it down to a science, right? Because you're going to go and you watch a TV show, you watch it for about 15, 20 minutes, and then you're like, well, I think I'm going to go get a drink. I'm going to check my phone. I'm going to go to the bathroom. Bam, they're going to a commercial break because they know that they've lost you. So 7 to 10 minutes later, after the commercials are done, you're like, well, I wish that would come back on so I know how it ends. Boom, it's back on. You've got another 15, 20 minutes, and then you're losing attention again. The show is over, or you've got another commercial break. Okay. I want you to approach studying in the exact same fashion, and not just studying, but everything. If you're sitting at the computer and you find that you're opening up all these different tabs, or you're sitting here and you're scrolling on your phone instead of paying attention to lecture, that's your big sign. Like, get up and take a break. And I don't mean just take a break. I'll look at something different. I want you to stand up. I want you to maybe do a couple stretches or just walk around the room, go get a drink, come back. Your brain is going to be refreshed. You're going to remember things better. You're going to feel like you're paying attention better, and you're not going to feel overwhelmed or exhausted by the end of it, by the end of the day. Okay, so take lots of breaks. Aromatherapy is a really overlooked field, I think. It can be wonderful. If you need something energizing, get some peppermint. If you need something soothing, get some lavender. They sell lotions, they sell incense, they sell room sprays, all sorts of stuff. Just Google what will help you the most. All right. And separate your study space. Please, please, please do not study on your bed if you can at all. Not be in your bedroom when you're doing schoolwork. Please do it. Again, studies show that our bedroom, honestly, should only be reserved for 2 things: sleep and sex, the 2 things that it's designed for. Because when you're doing anything else in a bedroom, what you're doing is you're training your brain to say, you can do other things in here. So when you go to lay down at night and you turn out the light, your brain's still thinking, because your brain's saying, well, I could be thinking about school, or I could be doing this, I could be doing that. Okay. So if you don't have an option other than your bedroom, definitely make that separate study space. Get a little table, face it away from the bed. Don't do the books on the bed. Don't do your studying on the bed. Keep it separate. Your brain will thank you. You will feel less exhausted. You will feel more of that separation. I know that's a huge thing right now with the pandemic. A lot of students are telling me, well, I'm home all the time. Maybe I used to go to the library. I don't feel comfortable doing that, or maybe I can't do that right now. All I've got is this one little room. Fine, break it up, make it feel like it's different. Okay. All right, so then think positive. I always have to put a little Yeti in here. I'm actually a huge fan of Bigfoot and Yeti. Don't ask me why, I don't know. But this creature was actually on my birthday cake in December. So think positive, just like this little guy. One huge thing that I hear from students is that they feel like self care is a waste of time, or that they don't deserve to take breaks for themselves. I hear this time and time again, and it really breaks my heart. Self care is vital. Okay, so with all of this stress, with all the stress that continues to mount on us, because not only do you have the pandemic, you have school, you have work, you have family obligations, you've got political unrest. I mean, it's just now things are starting to settle down, and chances are they're going to kick right back up because that's the way of the world. So, how are you going to prepare for that? That's the big key. You need to prepare because stress is always going to be a part of your life. If you don't prepare for it coming, you're going to be overwhelmed by it the moment it hits you. Okay. So self care is vital to keeping stress managed and keeping it under control. So when you're tempted to think that you don't deserve it or that you don't have time for it, it's a waste of time, I want you to remember your car can only go as far as you put gas in the tank. If you're not filling up your own reserve, you've got nothing left to give your patients, give your children, give your parents, give yourself. You have nothing left to give if your tank is empty. Right? So self-care is vital. You can only give as much as you have, and your downtime is not irrelevant. Okay, downtime is necessary. I want you to schedule it into every single day. So I have a lot of students who will say, well, I have a clinical rotation for 12 hours. Okay, so my one day is basically I get up, I eat breakfast, I go to the hospital. 12 hours later, I come home, I'm beat, I'm going to bed. I get it. You're not going to have a ton of breaks during that day, but you can do little things. You can put pictures on your phone of people that you love or something that makes you happy. You can wear earrings that make you feel good. You can wear clothes that make you feel good. In your ride to and from the hospital, you can listen to music that you like. You can use that as downtime. Okay. So schedule in something every single day. During the day, if you're going to have, okay, at least I know I'm going to have 30 minutes for lunch, take a 30-minute lunch break. I'll have so many students say, yeah, well, I use that time, to study. Da, da, da. Take a break. Okay. It's called a break for a reason. Go and relax. I'm looking outside the window now because it's absolutely gorgeous today. Does not mean it's going to be absolutely gorgeous tomorrow. We do live in Virginia. So if you don't like the weather, wait 15 minutes. So it's going to be a little messier tomorrow, but I am hopeful, very hopeful that spring is on the way. So as the weather gets nicer, eat outside, something to really refresh your brain and get it out of the stress for a few minutes. And remember, you are worth it. Okay. You are worth it. So I want to give you some resources that are around campus. So the Division for Academic Success, like I said, you are always welcome to come see me, come see one of my colleagues. So we do kind of split up the departments a little bit. So if you come and see me and you're actually like in clinical lab science, you would see my colleague Ashley instead of me. But even so, we all have great training to help you through this. We are there for you as long as you're in the program. I have students, honestly, who meet with me once a week because they feel like they need accountability, and that's the best way they can get it. I have some students who will meet with me a couple times a month just to make sure they're still on track with self-care and making sure they're getting their stress under control. So feel free to reach out to us. University counseling is a great resource. So I will say I have a number of students who will say, well, I don't really want to be seen going to university counseling. I don't want anyone to know that I'm doing that. Go see the one on the Monroe Park campus. Okay. They are connected. So you can certainly see one over the other. I would say reach out to them and just let them know, like, my preference is to go to the Monroe Park campus instead. Okay. The Well, that is a resource. They try to be on the MCV campus, but I think their presence is more heavily noted on the Monroe Park campus. However, they have a great wealth of information, and they have a lot of different, I won't call them classes, but like seminars or like one-time things that they do during a week. Yoga, office yoga, meditation, things that really help take you out of your busy day for a good half hour to an hour. They have resources on their website. So please, I would definitely implore you to look them up. Student health services. I know I had touched on illness, medication, things like that. I have a number of students who have shared with me that they've had breakouts, they've had hives, they've had their hair falling out, different things like that, physical manifestations of stress. So, in that case, you definitely would want to see someone at Student Health Services or your primary care physician. Student Health Services on our campus, again, is located in the VMI building. On the other campus, it's located a little further down from the Siegel Center. On if you're driving towards Henrico, it would be on your right-hand side as well. Rams in recovery. I put this one because we actually do have a number of students who are in recovery or trying to break addictive habits. Rams in Recovery is a fantastic program. I've worked with them a number of times. They have great resources, great support. So I always put that out there as well. Okay. So I know I finished this a little bit early in case you have any questions. If you don't, that's fine. But if you have any questions now, I'm happy to answer them. If you would rather email me, please feel free. This is also my direct line, though I will say I don't check my voicemail quite as frequently when I'm out of the office. So the best way to reach me is by email. Do we have any questions?
First and foremost, Bernie, I would like to appreciate you for, or thank you for bringing certain things to light and the importance of certain things, because I love the example that you gave with putting gas in the car, because we can only go as far as we can with what we do to take care of ourselves. And I think that that was very important to bring to light. In one example, at least to get the ball rolling, how would you suggest students work with communicating concerns to faculty or to staff, what they're going through without necessarily divulging exactly what's going on, but at least their faculty and their supervisors are aware of what's going on and how they can best work with those in those positions? Because I think sometimes students may not feel comfortable, and next thing you know, something happens and there's no opportunity for them to recover.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great question. Thank you for asking it. So, a couple sides to that. On the one side, if it has anything to do with illness, anything documented, like you're seeing a doctor for it, you're seeing a therapist for it, I would highly recommend come see our office first, the Division for Academic Success, because if there's any way of having like a disability, it can be a temporary disability. A lot of people will have, something stress related that is a temporary thing. You want all of that to come through our office so that you don't have to divulge anything that you're not comfortable with your department. If it's not something that's that stressful, but maybe, I'm going to have to take a couple days off because a family member is sick, or, I'm dealing with this, that, or the other thing, I would start with your advisor first, because your advisor will know who in the department may or may not need to know that information. If it's something that's only going to affect one course, like I know I'm going to miss an exam tomorrow because I've got, something that came up, then I would only reach out to the professor. I'm going to say err on the side of caution. Don't tell all your business because I don't think that that's always appropriate. I've had a number of students who have done that, and then they come and tell me, they're like, man, I wish I hadn't said that because now I think they might view me differently, or they're treating me differently, or things like that. I will say, honestly, I think the staff, the faculty, they really just want to help students. So even if they're treating you differently than you expected, I don't anticipate they treat you poorly. I think it's just they're trying to help out and they don't know what else to do. But so I always kind of say, be a little reserved, give bare minimum information unless you absolutely have to divulge more.